Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa, I read, and welcome to my channel, and today we're talking about all the books I DNF'd so far in 2022. So if you're new to my channel, I don't know if you know this about me, but I do DNF a lot of books, and DNF means did not finish. So a lot of these books I put down because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't continue. I wasn't interested anymore. I lost interest. I was bored, like whatever the reason. And so I have I have 8 titles here, which is a lot because I didn't read as much the first half of this year as I have in the past. I don't even know how many books I've read, but 8 is a lot for the amount I actually read. So we're just gonna go through each book one at a time and share what happened. Oh, I should also mention a lot of these I don't actually have on me anymore because I got rid of them because, you know, I wasn't interested anymore, and so that's what happened. Okay, so the first one is Deluxe by Anna Godperson. I'm trying to remember what vlog I read first few in, but a lot of these were for a reading vlog that I did. And Deluxe is a historical YA, and I was really excited because it's set in like the Gilded Age in New York. So it's like a historical story, and I kind of thought it was going to be historical romance, but YA, but it wasn't. I heard it described as like a historical Gossip Girl. And when I gave it a try, it definitely read that way because it was the story about a young girl and how she died and the mystery around it. And we got to see it from different perspectives. And I didn't realize that's what the story was. I had no idea what the story was, but the mystery and the intrigue and the gossiping kind of aspects of the story, I had no idea. I was kind of hoping this was going to be more of a romance, and it ended up not being that, and it was kind of interesting, but pretty much from like the first prologue, or not even the prologue, but yeah, I guess prologue. So even from the prologue, I could guess what happened, and so since I knew I was going to read anymore, I flipped to the end of the book to see what happened, and I was right. And I'm glad I decided not to read it because I knew that wasn't the story I wanted, so that's why I didn't finish it. The next one is The Hunter's Moon by O.R. Melling. I had this bind up of all the books in the series for a long time, and I had it for so long because it's about fairies, and I love fantasies about fairies. This read so much younger than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was an adult story, and it's not. It read very much YA, and it was about this girl who was visiting her cousin in, I think, maybe Ireland, and they decide to go on this trip together, and for some reason their parents are letting them go on this trip alone even though they're like 16-year-old girls, and they decide not to follow the rules and go on a different path, and I don't know, I just wasn't liking it, and it was really strange, and I don't know, it just wasn't for me. I didn't like it, so I decided not to read it. But the next one is Ruined by Amy Tintra, and this is the first in a fantasy trilogy, a YA one, and this one sounded really interesting, and I think I would have liked it if it was written differently. It is about a woman. Her country was ravished by war by the enemy country, and the country that she's from have people called the Ruined who have powers, and obviously the other country fears that power. And so her country got ravished by war, and I think they killed her parents who were the king and queen, and now it's just her and maybe her brother. I barely remember, but she decides to think of this scheme where she's going to pretend to be the enemy's son's betrothed. So she is posing as someone else who she killed, actually, if I remember correctly. And I liked that concept. I liked the idea of her like going in and pretending to be someone else who she's not, to spy and, you know, get on the inside and get information on their enemies. But it didn't end up being that way. Obviously, you could probably tell that it was going to be about her kind of falling for the son, which is fine. Like, I like that idea. But she did not present me any feelings about the king and queen, the enemy king and queen. There was no internal dialogue about how angry she was with them, which I found so surprising because they are the reason why her country is devastated. And I would have thought that she would have been so angry internally and just like devastated and just so infuriated, and she wasn't. She was like being kind of charming with the king and queen, and I just couldn't get over that. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. So I just decided I'm not reading this book anymore. So yeah, I just thought it was so odd, and like I can see like maybe falling for the prince, because the prince probably doesn't understand all that's going on, is probably left in the dark. But her reactions to the king and queen didn't make any sense to me, and it bothered me enough that I wouldn't continue reading. The next one is Glitter by April M. Pike, and this was kind of a disappointment because I've liked April M. Pike's books in the past. I really like her Wings series, and this one again is another YA, and it's a really interesting concept because it's set at Versailles, and the idea is on the inside everyone pretends it is like the 1800s, I guess. Like, they all wear the period clothing, they all have the titles, they all have the manners and everything, and the king pretends to be like King Louis in a way. But there's also like all this technology, because it's still modern day, so there's all this technology that is like running the castle, and all the maids and servants are all robots. So it's like really interesting. But the place that the story began, I felt like was the wrong place, because it started off where our heroine is engaged to the king. And the reason why she's engaged to the king is because her mother, who is conniving and thinking up schemes, forces his hand to do so because she caught him killing someone. Well, so and this is just like all in the synopsis, right? This is nothing surprising. This happened in the past. And I was thinking, like, this would be so much better story if we started with the heroine coming to the castle for the first time, because we learned that she's kind of new, like she's been there for maybe 1 or 2 years. And it's like, if we came to the castle at the beginning and like discovered this interesting castle with all the technology and get to know all the people and really like understand and learn about this new world, that would have been super cool. And if we got to see her maybe fall for the king and then learn how bad he is, like, I think that's a better story. And I just couldn't get over how the time frame, just, I felt like it started in the wrong place, and I just wasn't interested. Like, I could tell she was gonna fall for someone else. I just felt like it just started wrong. Like, I don't know, I just couldn't get over it, so I decided not to read it. I also DNF'd Nightshade by Andrea Kremer. This is another book I've had on my bookshelves like forever, and it's a paranormal romance YA, and it's an older title, and I just didn't like it. The writing was fine. It was just more the world building, I guess. I was really confused by what was going on. For the most part, it's a werewolf romance, and we're following our heroine, who is a werewolf, and she's an alpha female, and she's destined to marry an alpha male from like another pack, and they're kind of merging the packs. But they're like 16, and they're like having this arranged marriage, which I didn't really understand. I'm like, you're only 16, like, why is this happening? But it's like arranged by their parents. And then there's other people involved in this world and the packs and everything that they had names for, like the groups or organization, but it was never explained about. But for some reason they're in charge of the werewolves. It wasn't explained very well. Like, I'm still confused and I still don't understand. And obviously it was going to be a love triangle because there's a human boy that she saves, but she's like not supposed to save him. And I'm like, why can't she save him? That wasn't really explained well. I didn't like it. It was weird. And so I decided not to continue. The next one is The Earl Takes All by Lorraine Heath. This was really disappointing because I anticipated liking this one, and it just like, I liked it. I liked a lot of it, but then I just really lost interest. I got really bored maybe 2/3 of the way through. This is a story about a woman who's married, but her husband dies while he's overseas traveling, and his twin brother comes back and pretends to be him because the husband didn't want his wife to lose the baby. She's lost babies in the past and she's pregnant, and he was really worried that her finding out about his death would cause her to miscarriage. So the brother agrees, and the brother's like actually secretly loved her all the time previously, and so there is like this tension they've always had even while she was married. He's conflicted the whole time, and I liked the first maybe half, and then when things got revealed, I just didn't like it as much. Like, they had to like confront the issues, obviously, that he was deceiving her. I just lost interest. They weren't doing much. They were on this date the whole time, and like nothing really happened. And then they were gonna go to London, and I just couldn't be bothered reading that because we needed to get the last reveal. And this is my first Lorraine Heath, but I have the sense that she usually has like a big dramatic reveal at the end, and I had a feeling about what it was going to be, and I was just like, I'm not here for it. So sadly, I just lost interest. It was more of a 3-star. It wasn't like bad or anything. I just was getting really bored, so I decided not to continue. The next one I DNF'd is my most recent one, which is Eternally Yours by Brenda Jackson. This was really disappointing because I actually DNF'd it before, but the first time was like not because I didn't like it. It was just I don't know, I got distracted with life, and so I put it down, and I always intended to pick it up again, and so I did, and I read further than I did previously, and I liked like the first half a lot. And then they had this scene with like this party, and they were constantly introducing characters, and I just like could not I just could not get past this party scene. It was very long and boring, and they kept on introducing characters that had nothing to do with the plot. And I know she does that because it's a super long series, and the series connects with all her other series. So she's like introducing characters that are going to be in other books. I get it, but I just find it so boring and so distracting because it's clearly like, oh, here is the scene. We're going to introduce this random character that has nothing to do with this story, and I find it so boring when that was happening. They were constantly going back and forth like, should we be together? Should we not? Should we tell everyone? Should we not? And I was getting really bored. And it put me in a reading slump. I didn't read for like a month or something. It was super long, so it makes me nervous to like pick up her other books because I'm scared it's gonna happen to me then again. So there we go. The last one. It should be no surprise to anyone that I like DNF this book. I could not get through this book. It is so long. I was liking it a lot. Like, everything I read I liked, and it was like fine, but I cannot be in Edward Cullen's head for this amount of pages. It is over 600 pages. It is like way too long. Unnecessary. 658 pages. This book is unnecessarily long and unnecessarily so much in his head, and Edward Cullen spirals endlessly. He is not good enough for Bella, but he cannot stay away from her. He can't be with her, but he can't help himself. Like, that is the whole book. I really like the interactions with each other, and I actually like Bella in the books. I kind of forgot that I did, but I do like her as a character, and she's very charming and cute and everything. So I found that really pleasant, and I can maybe see myself rereading this series. The other things I liked was seeing the Cullen family. I liked that expanded interactions and getting to know those characters, but it's too long. And like when I was picturing like what else had to happen, like it just felt so exhausting to think about having to read this whole thing. Like I don't care about like the vampire scene at the end and him kidnapping her. Like, I don't care about that stuff. Like, I was more interested in seeing their relationship, but not at the expense of having to read all this. So I can't even remember how far I got. They were doing a lot of like at school stuff, and him following her around, and him listening to people's thoughts and to check up on her, and I don't know. It was too much. I read like I got a fair way through. Like, I got to 277, so like for sure a third of the way through, but I could not read another 400 pages. That's too much. So those are all the books that I DNF'd so far in 2022. As you could probably tell, I will have a lot more to DNF in the future. It's just the habit I get into. If I don't like something, then I'm not going to read it. So yeah, it's unfortunate that I didn't like some of these books. But I like the philosophy of not reading something. I honestly, I just can't push myself through. Sometimes I can, sometimes I just really can't. And so I just have to let myself not push. Like, I just can't do it, you know? And it's okay. And then I can move on and read something that I actually like and enjoy. And I find when I DNF something and then pick something else up that I like, I always am so much happier with that decision. So anyways, I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about DNFing or not finishing books. What do you think? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about it. If you've read any of these books before, please comment down below. I'd love to know what you liked about it, what you didn't like. I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you have not done so. You can follow me on Goodreads and Instagram. And you know what? I want you to keep reading. Bye.